Episode 109.
Reality of dealing with an individual at the door. And that's where Gonzo's Toolbox comes in. I take an average day customer, maybe a little bit on, let's say, the goofy side or something, but we all have these. And I take and turn it into a story. And what happens? Everybody that reads these stories, they sit there and they nod their head and they're laughing in the background, going, yep, I had one just like that.
Welcome, aftermarketers, to Remarkable Results Radio. Listen to learn just one thing from today's episode on your journey to remarkable results. Hello, aftermarketers throughout North America and around the world. Carm Capriato here, and thank you for listening to the show from Remarkable Results Radio, iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and now on Google Play Music. And welcome to episode 109 with Scott Gonzo Weaver. This episode is brought to you by Federal Mogul Motor Parts and Garage Gurus. For serious technical training and support, online, on site, and on demand, Garage Gurus is everything you need to know. Find out more at fmgaragegurus.com. I hear a lot from my former guests and recently heard from Ryan Clough from episode 92. Ryan said he's been enjoying the episodes but was surprised when another local shop owner had heard his episode and came on over to his shop to check it out. He said, you definitely have a following, and shops need the advice that's shared on the show. Thanks to Ryan Clough for proving the reach of Remarkable Results Radio. Now, big news for Android users. Remarkable Results Radio is now live on Google Play Music. See the Remarkable Results Radio homepage for the link or search for the podcast on Google Play Music. Now meet Scott Weaver from Superior Auto Electric. The world knows him as Gonzo from Gonzo's Toolbox. He is published every month in industry trade publications and shares his brand of knowledge and humor on gonzostoolbox.com. No doubt, if you earn your living on the service side of the aftermarket, you've either been to his site or read his articles or book. Can you imagine an episode with Gonzo without a laugh or two or even three? Well, it was a lot of fun and some very serious times as we discussed our beloved industry. Here's a few great reasons to listen. Find out who encouraged Gonzo to start writing. Find out what he does to recharge, what his escape is, what he loves the most about diagnostics, and catch his view on the industry in the next 10 years. Also, how Scott got the name Gonzo. A hilarious story. So much more in this extended interview. If you've seen Gonzo at many regional and national events, read his magazine articles, or even read his book, hey, look, I found a loose nut. Enjoy this very relaxed and candid interview where Gonzo is at his best. Here we go. A warm welcome to Scott Gonzo Weaver from Superior Auto Electric in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Gonzo's Toolbox. Hey, Scott. Are you ready to share your remarkable results?
Sure, Carm. What do we got?
Oh, I tell you, I don't know where to start. I mean, you are one famous heck of a guy here, but tell me about, Gonzo, your pure grassroots startup as an entrepreneur in this business.
You know, I started, of all things, I started on April 1st. That was the day I opened my shop up officially.
Okay.
I had been working on cars before that, but officially I opened on April 1st, and I literally started with one can of WD-40 and one test light doing automotive electrical repairs.
You got to have them, right? What the heck?
Yeah, but you know, it wasn't like I could even afford a case. I had one can and one test light, and I treasured those things. Oh. You know, so yeah, it was humble beginnings, let's put it that way.
How many years ago do you remember that so succinctly? How many years ago?
33 years.
Wow.
33 years.
You'll never forget.
There's not too many guys. No, to walk in that shop the first day and knowing that I was the boss, that I was going to, you know, fix cars and, you know, do a job that I knew I could do, it still is as fresh as today. It was just great. I never regretted it doing it, and there's been plenty of ups and downs in 33 years. But would I do it over? Sure.
Good for you.
All right.
Gonzo, was there a turning point, an aha moment for you that was a kind of a watershed moment?
Oh, sure. When my daughter came to work for me, oh, my goodness, this is 15 years ago, 10 years ago, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And she ran the front office, didn't know anything about cars, of course, but, after you hang around Dad long enough, you start to learn a few things. And she would get a repair order, RO, set up, and I'm busy, and I've got 3-4 guys in the shop working. I'd go into the office, and I'd see what new ROs are there, and I'd pick one up, and I'd read it out, and I'd pop it back on the table, and I go, well, it's another wiper job. And I'd just walk off. And I kept doing this because I have these little cliches I would use for certain setups. And finally she said, Dad, what are you talking about? He said, why do you call that a wiper job? I said, well, that goes back to this guy that came in and slammed this wiper motor down on the table and said, I want this bleep, bleep, bleep thing put on. And the parts store guys are all in cahoots. They're telling me I don't know what I'm talking about. I know it's a bad motor, but they said I have to have it professionally put in. I'm already at the point going, well, I know what kind of character this is, so let's straighten this out a little bit. Okay, sir, it's X amount of dollars to put this in, and that's all I'm going to do unless you want me to diagnose it. Nope, just put it in. So, of course, I took the bolts out, put the bolts back in, shoved it outside, handed him the keys. Thank you very much. Off he goes. And I stood at the door, and I looked outside, and I looked across the other tech, and I said, watch this. And you knew what he's going to do, because that wiper motor was no way it was going to work, because the problem wasn't the wiper motor. And he come back in screaming and hollering, telling me he's going to send me to every different Better Business Bureau or whatever agency it was at the time. And at that point, it got to be anybody that come in and complained and said, you're doing what I tell you to do,
right.
Don't diagnose it.
Yeah.
That's a wiper job.
They were stereotyped forever.
Exactly. And this started the whole thing off with my daughter. Dad, you ought to write these down because they're funny. And she goes, even though I know at the time you weren't very happy with it, you're probably ticked off, but you've had time to think about it and write it in a funny manner that everybody in the business could relate. And that basically got the ball rolling in me writing a book, and now, of course, Gonzos Toolbox.
Yeah, and you're so well known. I want to get back to the writing piece and your unique style here in a minute. But, Scott, where did you get the name Gonzo?
Everybody asks me, how did I get this crazy name? Well, it actually started when I was in the service. I was in the U.S. Marine Corps. And I had special duty privileges, meaning that I went to the chow hall anytime I wanted, but I also worked 12 on, 12 off, 12 on, 12 off all the time. And on a Sunday, we would switch to 6 hours, meaning that you would flip from the day shift to the night shift. So it was constant of that. So they gave us kind of a free rein. But with all these odd hours, I was walking down from the chow hall. Now, you got to picture this. I'm in Okinawa, Japan, on a side of a hill, and I can literally see the sun coming up and the curvature of the earth across the ocean. And that's basically all I seen. And then at about that time, I blacked out. When it happened, I got mugged. And they broke my nose. And I think I was 17, 18 years old at the time. And, they fixed me all up and all this stuff. And in the meantime, they put this cast on my face, to kind of hold everything back together. And being young, dumb, I'm definitely drinking way too many beers and probably on way too many painkillers and passed out in the rec room.
Okay.
Somebody painted it blue, put a bugle and a rubber chicken in my hand and took a picture. Ever since then, it was nickname's Gonzo. So after the service, it disappeared. I came to Tulsa more than 30 years ago, and one of the first things I did was I worked at a used car lot, taking care of used cars. And I was underneath the car, and I wouldn't say I was frustrated, but I definitely had my mind somewhere else. Because whatever it was giving me a problem. And the owner's wife came out going, Gonzo, Gonzo. I just pulled out from under the car. I said, what? She said, I was calling the dog. So, needless to say, the owner of this place, he was one of those characters that if he had anything that got a laugh, he was going to pull it out. So now he's announcing that his mechanic is Gonzo. So ever since there, it's stuck. So when I opened the shop up, I went with it. And originally I was going to name the shop the gas company, Gonzo's Auto Service Company. But a friend of mine talked it out of it and said, no, name it Superior Electric. So that's how it got its name. But to this day, everybody knows me as Gonzo.
Great story. Great belly laugh. Thank you. I believe you would agree that being a top tech is real hard work. Keeping up is a full-time gig, considering vehicle technology, repair procedures, and diagnostics. It's refreshing to know that Federal Mogul Motor Parts' Garage Guru is there for you. It's been designed by and for technicians, the best in the industry. And did you know there's no other comprehensive program like this anywhere? A big part of the program is the nationwide network of Guru's on-site training and technology centers. There, you can get your hands dirty with the equipment and tools you use every day in real work-related situations. When online is your perfect way to learn, do it with Guru's 24/7 online academy with a huge catalog of training course options. And with the Guru's on-the-go technology fleet, they bring the latest products and demos right to your shop. And this year, you get free stuff from the Garage Rewards loyalty program. You earn points towards gear from your favorite Federal Mogul Motor Parts' brands. And what is really great, it costs nothing to join, and you'll start earning points immediately. So head on over to fmgaragegurus.com and learn all about Garage Gurus training, support, and get in on the rewards. Gonzo, what gets you out of bed in the morning?
Well, my job. I still, to this day, love what I do. I'm slowing down a little bit, getting a little older than I used to be. But I still I really enjoy the diagnostic side of things. Yeah. Which is probably the one part that's hard for most people to swallow is that, and as I always tell them, that a lot of times the diagnostic takes longer than the repair. Because I may spend an hour diagnosing it, and what I'm looking for is something about the tip of a ballpoint pen as the problem, and that's what I'm repairing.
Right.
So I tend to always tell them that, and that chase, that getting to that end degree of the problem, getting to the source of the problem is probably what I really enjoy the most. I mean, that's the fun part.
So you get juiced up over that.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I love the challenge. It's a puzzle. And I always said there's a lot of guys in the business that what they're here for, what they do, is they solve puzzles.
Yeah.
And sometimes that puzzle is created by the consumer putting in some XYZ radio and screwing up some kind of data line. Or it could be, a mouse, some kind of varmint got in the car. You just never know what is going to trigger this puzzle to start. And then your job is to solve that. And that's really, that is what I love.
You love the hunt, don't you?
Yeah, that's the best part. Absolutely the best part.
Now, are you being paid for it, the clock hours? Are you earning a fair living on this hunt?
15 years ago, I would have just laughed if you asked me that because cars were coming in like crazy. Business was great. Then we got into that time when the economy kind of tanked. Cash for clunkers come along, and it really took a lot of the servicing vehicles off the road for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And money now is tight. We're still, extremely busy. I wouldn't say we're any less busy, but at the same time, I have stepped back the business quite a bit from when it was. I don't want to have as many employees. I would rather have more time off, and I attend so many different conventions and seminars across the country. It just seemed a lot easier for me to kind of scale things back a little bit. But the challenge is still there, and the knowledge base has to increase as well in today's standards just to do the same job you did, say, a year ago.
And I do have a burning question I have to ask about that. But I guess my point about being paid was you hear a lot of guys say they're just not getting the money for the diagnostic time they need to put in. Do you believe in that? Do you think that's a true statement?
I think some people have a problem with getting away from what we used to do years ago. For example, back when we had a dimmer switch on the floor for headlights, how many problems could you have with the headlight? Dimmer switch wiring, headlight switch wiring, the wiring out, the headlight, a bad bulb, blown fuse. Pretty simple. Now take that same problem today and say my headlight doesn't turn on. I could fill a book with what could possibly be from whatever data stream it's coming through, some headlight control module or lighting control module. So the whole essence of how you diagnose it has totally changed. So with that change, you have to take a look at your problem in a totally different way than you did 10 or 15, 20 years ago. And that problem of diagnosing it also has to be brought in front to the customer to be aware of, hey, look, this is not as simple as, oh yeah, on that car it's always a headlight switch. That's not the case anymore.
Right.
So I think if somebody's having a problem getting their diagnostic time paid for, they're either A, not charging enough for the time, or B, you need to get some more schooling and buck up.
And so is there an investment? Say a headlight came in and I'm a B-Tech. I want to take on this challenge. I'm the shop owner. Do I let the B-Tech do it and spend 3 hours while he's learning but only charge for 2 because it's an investment in our learning curve? Is that a justification?
I think you could justify that if you see that B mechanic as a possibly going to be your next A mechanic.
Got it.
I would say so. The only problem I've always had, and of course after 30-some years of this, I've seen it, and that is I get somebody kind of trained up, and I call it the 7-year itch. They get 7 years in, they go, well, I know more than the boss, I'll go open my own shop. So that's always been a problem in this business, but then again, that's the business. That's just the way things are.
Okay, so you're writing, you're traveling, you're probably speaking all the time as you just related to. Where do you get your uptake to stay current?
I spend a lot of time watching video instructional classes, technical stuff. Honestly, I get a lot of information, tidbit stuff, from anything from a Facebook group, say of mechanics, like all that, a site that only has mechanics in it,
okay.
And they will post something about a car, and they'll put the scope readings up, or they'll say, here's the readings I was getting, this is what the problem I found, and it just keeps your mind fresh as far as what you need to do. And I think the more you spend time evaluating different problems that other people have had, I think it's going to make you a better mechanic anyway.
So if I was walking in a shop and I had a diagnostics problem and someone didn't have their stethoscope and their books and their computers out, I should run the other way.
Ooh, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it's a good point. Actually, I think in reverse of that, if you go in a shop and it's not real busy, let's say they've got a couple open bays, and you see a technician, an A, a B, and maybe a C or D mechanic, with a scope or a scanner out practicing with it, I would use that shop.
Yeah.
Because these guys are trying to train themselves, get familiar more with the tools that they have.
So what's the most important part of the job in today's mechanic? Diagnosing.
Hands down, diagnosing. You have to be able to systematically diagnose the car. If you can't hang parts. You can't, as I stated in many of my articles, you can't throw a parts cannon at it and load it up and shoot parts at it. It's not going to work. Most parts today, there's some sort of configuration or programming that goes along with it, and you can cause even more havoc by trying to patch together a car by just slapping a different part on. So learn to diagnose it. That's number one.
Great advice. Now, you take a different look at the industry. So what is Gonzo's Toolbox? Tell me all about it.
How would you put that? I guess you could say the thing that makes Gonzo's Toolbox different is that I'm not trying to show you how to make your shop better, how to improve your customer relationships or get the bottom dollar better. That's not me. That's not what I do. Now, all those guys that have those abilities or those ways of telling you how to improve your business,
yeah,
super. I love it. Okay, I think it's very important.
Right.
But what most of the time they're missing is the reality of dealing with that individual at the door. And that's where Gonzo's Toolbox comes in. I take an average day customer, maybe a little bit on, let's say, the goofy side or something, but we all have these. And I take and turn it into a story. And what happens, everybody that reads these stories, they sit there and they nod their head and they're laughing in the background going, yep, I had one just like that. So what I'm doing is I'm taking some of that tension of being in the business, being in that service bay, trying to fix this car when you got the customer just over your shoulder pointing their finger at you and calling you every name in the book. I'm taking some of that stress out, or at least that's what I feel like I'm doing. I'm kind of the stress relief for the auto business.
But is that who you are? I mean, are you writing in the style of who you are?
Oh, yeah, that's me. I mean, that is me. My wife always says that I don't know how to place a comma. I said, well, I'm just writing it. I write like I talk. And I said, if it doesn't come out in proper English, well, so be it. That's just the way Gonzo talks. So, I try to write as if I was talking to you. I never try to write as if I'm trying to be some kind of theatrical wizard. I'm not. I'm just a mechanic.
Or even a PhD. You're not a PhD. Yeah, I know. And that's why you have such an incredible following. And so I'm sure wherever you go, people ask you for your autograph, I'm sure.
It's happened.
Here's great news. There's a new brake pad on the market that can stop a pickup SUV or CUV up to 50 feet sooner than other leading pads. And on top of that, it lasts up to twice as long as previous designs. Sound too good to be true? Well, Wagner Brake did it. They designed their new Wagner OEX brake pads that stopped up to 50 feet sooner than other leading brake pads. To prove it, they got Link Engineering, pretty much the industry standard on brake performance testing, and they got their proof. But Wagner needed more convincing. They asked 400 top technicians to put Wagner OEX pads to the test, where it matters most, in their shops and on their customers' vehicles. 99% said they saw a noticeable difference in the new brakes, and 95% said they'd likely recommend them to other service professionals for their customers. Now, soon you can get Wagner OEX brake pads in your shop. They'll be available nationwide with coverage for 95% of U.S. pickups, SUVs, and CUVs. Get the full story. Learn about the science behind Wagner OEX and check coverage. Go to WagnerBrake.com. Tell me, where do you see the independent repair industry in, say, 10 years?
10 years. Well, first thing that comes to mind is telematics. I think that's going to play a big part in it. I think as far as the maintenance side, I think that's going to be a key. Even though I think cars are probably going to last longer in 10 years than they are now. I think a lot of things electronically are going to find more satellite controlled, more let's say
vehicle-to-vehicle stuff?
Vehicle-to-vehicle, but I'm thinking more on the line that your car's sitting in your garage, and the manufacturer says, oh, we've got this update for transmission shift points. We're sending it to your car.
Right.
You won't have to go to the repair shop and have the guy download it from the website, plug it into the car, and then all that. I really think they're going to cut that part out.
That's how Tesla's doing it.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's more of the telematics side of things. Yeah. But I think that's what you're going to see more of.
So, the modern technician, based on what you see, are they going to have to spend 20, 30% more time in class to stay up?
Definitely. Yeah, the more time you spend in class learning and understanding the different systems and how often these things change, I think is going to be such a key importance. Now, granted, there seems to be an age difference in most of the mechanics. There's a lot of mechanics that are 50 plus, but I only see a small margin in that, let's say 35 to 45, 50 range. But I see a lot of guys starting up, that are 18 and 20, 25, 30, that are just now getting into the business. And I think that's good because these are the guys that play with computers. They grew up with them. They were there when they were born. And they're going to have a total different understanding than you and I ever will of computers. They're going to look at them totally different. So I really think that's another key feature is that even though, yes, everybody says there's a shortage of technically trained mechanics, and there will always be. I don't think you'll ever get rid of that because of the fact of how fast the industry changes and introduces new products. It's so hard to keep up with that. I think you can to a point, but I don't think you're going to ever absolutely cover that.
A diagnostician almost has job security today if they stay up to date.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, I certainly think so.
Okay, I ask many shop owners that I interview, recently some technicians, about the number of hours that they feel they should have or they take per year. What are you hearing out there to stay current?
Well, I probably spend, I'd say, 6 hours a week. And I'm just basing it on, Monday night, Tuesday night, okay, and then Thursday night. So about 6 hours a week I spend watching different instructional videos of some sort or reading a manual of some sort. They may be reviewing what I knew from previously, or I may be reviewing a job I had in the shop that day, just to keep my mind fresh on it. But I think that's the big thing.
Okay, that's 300 hours.
Sure, yeah.
And you have no qualms about saying 300 hours a year, because if you didn't, you would not be Gonzo. You wouldn't have the ability to do this diagnostics. It would so quickly change that within 2 or 3 weeks you would get dull.
Yeah.
Actually, it's more like keeping up than getting dull, right? It's just keeping up.
Well, keep sharpening the point.
Yeah, okay.
That's if you want to call it getting dull, I call it keep sharpening the point.
Yeah, that's it. Much better. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I do.
It's because there again, it goes back to it's like a puzzle.
Yeah.
So how do you get better at solving puzzles? You play more puzzles.
Got it.
So how do you get better at diagnosing? Diagnose more cars.
Yeah. Hey, what was the latest equipment you may have purchased recently?
Oh my! The latest one is a new scanner brought out by Molly. I'm one of the beta testers, but so I get a little advantage there. It is a pretty unique little scanner. Eventually, it's going to do all the models. Right now, it has OBD2 and I think it's 2006 and newer Fords for the beta testing side of it. But it's very quick. You plug it in, and basically you hit one button, diagnostics, boom, and that sucker is on there, and it's giving you all the information you need. And what's nice about it is anything that you want to refer to, say the code, you need to go to Mitchell On Demand or something. One click and it adds it on. Now I know Snap-on has the same kind of feature, but this is the Molly version of it. But I do think it's a lot better. It's much quicker too.
Great. So you wrote a book, Gonzo, and what's it called?
It's called Hey Look, I Found the Loose Nut. It's a collection of stories and things that have happened in my years of service, dealing with people from every kind of walk of life. Some are funny, some just make you nod your head, but most of all, it is definitely entertaining. Every mechanic should read it.
Tell me your favorite story out of there.
Well, there's two that are really, really good, but my ultimate favorite one that really describes diagnosing a problem and dealing with a customer who's quite upset would have to be the lady that kept poking me. And this lady came in, an elderly lady, and had brakes put on her car, new pads. No big deal. It's a typical job. Every mechanic's done hundreds of these. So got the job done, gave her the car. And about a day or 2 days later, she comes back. And I mean, this lady's livid. She is absolutely bent bad. Calling me everything from the worst mechanic she's ever seen to, well, you know the routine. It's how it usually goes. So I said, well, what's the problem? She goes, well, every time I stop, I keep hearing this clunk, 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 clunk. Okay, let me go drive it. Well, I'm going with you, she said. So I got in the car. She gets in the passenger seat. And mind you, she has not stopped talking yet. She is still at it. So I go to the first corner. I apply the brakes. And I hear the clunk, clunk, clunk. And at that time, she's poking me in the arm. Just kept poking me. There's the noise. There's the noise. I'm telling you, that's what I'm talking about. I already had to figure out what was going on, but I had to go around the block now. So that meant at least 3 more corners I'm going to get poked at. So we finally get back to the shop. I pull it from the shop. I get out. She's still going on about this, how bad of a mechanic I am. I got to the back of the car. I opened the trunk up. I grabbed the 6 or so sodas that were rolling around loose. I handed them to her and I said, did you go shopping after you left my shop? She goes, well, I did, but what difference would that make? I said, well, here's the clunk, and the clunk, as I handed it to her. Thank you. I hope to see you again. I have never seen that lady again. She never thanked me. She just threw the Cokes back in the trunk and drove off.
Great story.
True story, too.
Okay, Gonzo, here's the drill. It's great to be able to hear you, exposed to the world, great writer, big following. What's your escape? What do you do to recharge?
I'm sorry, I'm a golfer.
I noticed in the back of the room, I saw some golf clubs leaning up to the side.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty serious golfer, yeah.
You are. All right, what's your handicap?
Yeah. Right now it's about a 3.
Okay, yeah. All righty.
Yeah.
So do you play out? You play out in the country on some of those big rolling courses?
Oh, we've got courses all over the place here. Well, there's a course about 5 minutes from the house. Then there's some 15 minutes to 30 minutes away. So yeah, there's plenty of golf courses out. So yeah, that's my getaway. And I mind you, when I'm on the golf course, don't ask me what I do for a living. I won't tell you.
Got it. You're zoned in, huh? Yeah, you're zoned in.
That's it. I am not a mechanic that day.
Yeah.
And I just, I will tell them that I write. And that gets me off the hook. But the minute you say, "Oh yeah, I'm a master tech. I own a repair shop," you just open the can of worms. And the next 2 or 3 holes, we're talking about, my gas gauge isn't working right or something. I'm not there for that.
Yeah, but if I was with you, since I'm an interviewer, I would start asking you a million questions about writing. But
you would.
Yes, I would.
I love to go fishing.
Okay.
I've got on my property. I've got a pretty good sized pond. And if nothing else, then if it's not a good day to play golf, I'll probably be fishing.
You throw the line in, huh?
Oh, yeah.
What's in the pond?
Bass, carp, grass carp. Yeah, you can't really catch those. We got plenty of catfish, bluegills. Can't think of it. There's quite a bit in there.
Heck of a nice sized pond.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I got to tell you, man, Scott Gonzo Weaver from Superior Auto Electric and Gonzo's Toolbox out there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Wow, great to finally chased you down. We got hooked up, and I'd like just to, a final thought here. Any great words to live by?
I had an old customer. Her name's Joanne. She used to come in all the time. I haven't seen her in quite some time. But she had this saying that she used to tell me all the time. And that was, if you can't live on the bright side of life, shine the dull side. And that was her saying. And I kind of agree with her. That's it.
Pretty darn powerful.
Yep.
Hey, Gonzo, thanks for being on.
Oh, thank you. Thanks, Carm. I enjoyed this quite a bit.
Hey, Tribe, thanks so much for listening. Find additional show notes on Scott Gonzo Weaver and links to Gonzo's Toolbox on the show's episode page at Remarkable Results Radio. And that's the place where you can also subscribe to be an insider and get the pulse on every new episode release, industry links, and resources. I really do appreciate your engagement with the podcast and would ask that you help spread the word. Uniting our industry for continual improvements is a goal, and I'm so grateful for your support. Thanks for being on board to listen and learn from another inspiring aftermarket professional. Until next time.